Welcome to the RV Family Summit. I'm your host, Michelle Abraham, and today I'm with Matt and Karla Bailey. Matt and Karla actually just got back from their 150-day road trip across Canada, and they did that under the blog MustDoCanada.com, so make sure you check that out. Matt also blogs at livelimitless.net, and he's got a podcast as well, Live Limitless, a bit of a tongue twister, that one. And also, Matt does some travel hacking under CanadianFreeFlyers.com. So make sure you check out his website. It's on the travel hacking we're going to get into a little bit more in this interview. So welcome, you guys. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
Did I get it right, Matt? It's CanadianFreeFlyers.com?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, good. So tell us, you guys, a little bit about your journey and why you guys are such huge travelers.
Well, the huge travelers part was kind of started. Karla's from Mexico, and she after we met at school, we did the long distance thing for a couple of years, and then when she moved up, she wasn't allowed to work for like a year or two until you had your residence. Yeah. And so I thought, well, I still had a semester of university, so I did a exchange in Malaysia, and so we went to Asia for almost a whole year of backpacking and school, and that's kind of what started the travel bug. And then this last trip, we wanted to do something for the 150. I've always wanted to do like a documentary or like a video project, so we decided to do a 150-day road trip and we wanted to go to all three oceans, so coast to coast to coast, especially because there's a new highway in the north, and it just opens this year that goes right to the Arctic Ocean. And so we wanted to do something that not only inspired people to visit Canada, but also just to inspire Canadians. So that's why we kind of did it both as a tourism project, but also as like a What Makes Canada Special, where we interviewed people as well along the way as a way to inspire Canadians as to where they live.
Yeah. And also, it's been quite interesting, but because everywhere that we travel, and when Matthew says that he's Canadian, it's amazing how welcoming people are to Canadians and how people really look up to Canada in so many ways. So we wanted to know why Canada is kind of on the list, on the top list of an inspiring country. So, yeah.
That's great. I love it. What a cool project you guys are doing. And I love that you've taken your love for travel and you've turned it into some businesses. And I think that's really important on this summit, where we have families sitting at home thinking, oh, I'd love the RVing lifestyle, or I'd love to get out, from my 9-to-5 job and create some freedom in my life to travel. So I love how you guys came up with this idea to go across Canada in 150 days for Canada's birthday, and you've turned it into a multimedia kind of tour where you got sponsorship. So can you guys tell us a little bit about how that evolved, and how did you reach out to the sponsors?
Yeah, so after we had the idea, we knew we needed some funding, even if it was just to fund the trip itself, or like the vehicle. We had to buy a pre-owned SUV and things like that. So we really just came up with a list of potential companies that we thought would fit. Originally, the idea was to only work with Canadian companies, but there's not really enough, I don't think, especially in the bigger, there's just so many more in the US. And so we had our list of places that we thought would fit, starting with car companies, because we thought then we could advertise their car for them. So we probably sent 200 or 300 emails, and we had a few people interested, and then in the end it was Best Western that ended up sponsoring us, and that also fit because they have hotels all across the world. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was more just thinking of which company would like fit with a road trip across Canada and travel, and then just sending an email and going from there.
Mm-hmm. And did you offer to do things for them in exchange for like say a free accommodation across the country, or was it more so like you were wanting them to be sponsors so their name could be on like your website and things like that?
Yeah, I think the initial idea was that they would have like their name on it and things like that. And I had already had the blog for a number of years, so at least there was already like
content
and things for them to see. But but I left it pretty broad because we were pretty open to ideas, because we had never worked with a company on this big of a scale before. And so in the end, it was actually pretty cool how it worked out, because instead of them maybe having their name all over our videos, we produced a separate videos for them.
Yeah. We were actually looking for really a company that will work or in an organic way on our project, because like, I don't know, like trying to do a road trip and then like, advertising a brand or a product that doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing, it was going to be that weird. And we also wanted like to use a company. We didn't want that our project look very commercialized, so it looked very authentic to our followers and the people that are interested to travel.
That's really great. So that's good advice for people to like reach out to so many people, and like the amount of companies that don't respond is probably a lot. And I'm sure the companies that do respond, that's great, because if you leave it broad, then it leaves for more room of negotiation. So how did you guys end up doing videos for them? Was that something you negotiated after they reached back to you?
Yeah, so it was a combination of things. Like we did social media for them, some marketing. I was writing some blog articles for them as well, and then in addition, we would make. They wanted videos on certain cities in Canada, not like the overall road trip. So just like activities to do in Montreal or Halifax, and we would do those specifically for them. Yeah.
That's great. I love that. When you're thinking about an idea and you want to pursue it, but you're like, you guys could have just sat at home and been like, oh, we can't afford this trip. Let's not do it, But really you had a why behind it. And then you went out and tried to make it a realistic adventure, and then reached out to companies, and you turned it into reality. And so what are you going to do next? Now that you're back from the trip, you've recorded many things. Oh, sorry. I wanted to ask, were your activities that you were doing each day were also something that you had sponsored, or did you work that out with companies along the way?
Yeah. So, and before I go, I just wanted to mention too that we actually made a pilot video. I forgot about that part, because that was important to show our faces on camera. Initially, we were just sending emails, and then the filmmaker that we worked with, we all met up for a day in the Rocky Mountains and made a pitch video that was going to be the idea and our personalities and his style of filmmaking. So I think that really helped, because then they could see the quality and see our faces and know that they want to be a part of us as well. But yeah, to continue, we worked with
companies
hundreds of companies along the way, some of them in advance. Some of them I had worked with previously from the blog as well. But a lot of it was done also as we went, especially as we got some videos out because we started in Newfoundland. So once the Newfoundland video was produced, it got easier because they could really see the high quality of the videos and want to be a part of it.
That's awesome. What a great idea to do a pitch video too. And that way they can see your personalities and also quality of what things are going to look like once they're produced. That's a really great idea. So you started on the East Coast with the Newfoundland video then. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so you were still continuing to try to get sponsorship along the way as you were going.
A lot, yeah.
It's always a work in progress, right? That's great. So typically would you say companies like to like be notified or like reached out to like several months in advance or years, or is it more like a couple of weeks for different ones?
A couple of weeks.
I would say it helps if you do it a couple months in advance at least, because
sometimes there's a lot of back and forth.
Yeah. Sometimes there, especially with email, there can be a lot of back and forth and reaching the right person. Sometimes it depends how small it is. Like I'm sure if it's an activity like skiing, maybe could be easier because it's not based on a specific number of people to go out on a group activity. But I think working with bigger companies on a larger scale in terms of like funding, and I think with that, it can be helpful a year in advance sometimes. I just found like a lot of the corporations that we had reached out to that wanted to work with us, the reason why they didn't is because we just didn't have enough time, and they have a lot of levels to go through. And a lot of them actually plan their marketing a year in advance. So like they're planning it right now and coming up with the funding for next year. So if I guess think it depends who you're reaching out to.
Yeah, and accommodation for sure. The more in advance, the better, because especially the summer is the highest months. Highest months for many companies. So that's one thing that we really make sure to have accommodation in the places that we were going to stop, because at least if the activity doesn't work out, you find something else to do. But if you don't have a place to stay, then it becomes a big problem.
But if you're in an RV, it's solved.
Yeah, no, exactly. An RV can be.
Yeah, exactly. Or you end up sleeping in your Honda Pilot.
Yeah.
Right. So adventures along the way. So what was your guys' best advice for someone like getting started on doing something like this, starting a travel blog, starting a travel podcast? What are some things that you guys from your years of experience doing this could kind of recommend?
Well, I think in terms of like the blogging, I would just start. I mean, you can always try to reach out to companies, but I think they're starting to get a lot of requests. And so they'll definitely like look at what you've done. So if you're new, I would maybe just start to write about things that you've done or things that you're doing organically anyways, so that they can get a sense of your style of writing, and maybe try to write for other blogs as well. Even if it's for free at first, just to get your name out there and to get some links back to your blog and things like that. Because I think when you're reaching out to companies nowadays, they at least want to see your style of writing and see that you actually have a little bit of an audience as well.
And of course, I guess like having a great idea really helps. Like for us, even just traveling across Canada for 150 days was a very like catchy project. So I guess that really helps if you can tie it to something big. I will think that don't be afraid to think big, because even we heard from another entrepreneurships is that you think that you cannot do that, and not many people think of those big ideas. And if you're that person and reach them out at the right moment, then it's gonna work.
That's great advice. Thank you. I love it. So when you guys are planning these kind of trips, what's next for you guys? Like, you've done Canada now, and do you have another trip in mind?
Not on that kind of a scale, not yet. We're still thinking of it. It's because we're right now we have to focus on our documentary that we're making for the. So basically how we did it was we did a video for each province and editing as we went. So they're almost all live now. The only ones we're waiting on is British Columbia and Alberta, because we just finished. And those ones are based totally on like kind of the province, the things to do. And then we're going to make a documentary that's more about what makes Canada special, and about all the interviews that we had along the way, and about the road trip as well, like how we felt along the way and all that kind of stuff. So that's the next thing. And we're hoping to do a winter version. I don't know if it would happen this winter because it's coming up pretty soon. But we definitely love to do a winter version, because surprisingly, one of the things we learned along the way is all the cool things to do in the winter in each place. Because I've never considered traveling Canada in the winter. I already have my winter in Alberta, and I just go skiing and things like that. And I never saw the appeal to really visiting another province when it's minus 30. But you hear all these cool things that happen, and now I'm really interested in going everywhere and seeing it.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I love that. I love the idea of doing what you're doing, like a project, doing winter version and summer version. What a cool idea. And it's true, because all the activities you were doing in the summer, like they all have different activities that then all those companies do in the winter, I'm sure. And there's so many different things, like between like the Bonhomme de Neige festival in like Quebec City, and like the maple syrup stuff, or like going up to the Arctic and fishing and those kind of things. I think would be fantastic. And of course, skiing across the whole country would be pretty cool too. That's great. And so when you guys were, what kind of activities were you doing on your trip?
All kinds, yeah. It was pretty varied. Like sometimes it depended on the province. For example, like in Prince Edward Island is known a lot for its kind of food culture, and of course like the beaches and fishing and that kind of stuff. So that episode was pretty, and some of the history with Canada with our confederation. So pretty much that episode was focused on
the culinary
food experiences.
Yeah.
Like we Chef Michael Smith is a popular chef, and he has a place where you go and you experience this big feast. So So we did that. Whereas in Newfoundland, it was a lot about like going out on boat tours and seeing the icebergs, and we were there at that time of year with the icebergs, so it was more focused on that. And
also the people are super friendly. So it's also whatever it allows you to do. However, we're always looking for those exciting activities like rafting and bungee jumping. We really like try to I don't know, to experience all kind of activities.
A lot of like helicopter tours.
Unique experiences of the place, right?
Awesome. It sounds like a lot of fun. That's great. So yeah, helicopter tours and bungee jumping and skydiving and all those fun things across the whole country sounds like the perfect adventure.
Yeah, sure. And each province definitely has their like unique things, so we always try to focus on that.
That was great. Sorry, Karla, go ahead.
Especially with nature, like I think whatever that allows us to really experience nature even closer is what really made the highlights and is the better way to really experience the province itself.
Now, did you guys do a lot of research before you went on each province, or was it a lot of things that, you know, the locals were telling you or the tour companies were telling you that you were doing then?
Yeah. A lot of it was research because initially the plan actually was to make it so that we get to a province and people on social media can be like, you should do this and that. But then we realized when you only have like 10 days in a province, it wouldn't work because if, you know, it's like by the time they tell you, you might not be able to get the activity. So we ended up planning at least an idea. Yeah. Some things came up as we were there. Like they would say, oh, our friend can bring you out on the boat so you can stand on some pack ice in the middle of the ocean, something like that. But we definitely had our key things at least planned out.
Yeah, something that we really wanted to do, because if at least it didn't work with a company, then you get to the place and you start asking locals and they help you.
Yeah, I like that. It's like almost like traveling the back roads by what the locals say, like, you know, local like learning about like someone's own city or province is like so great when you talk to them, right? So I'm sure there's so many things that came up while you guys were actually in the provinces of people like, oh, you should do this or that. Yeah. I love that you guys added the aspect of like the interviewing people, what makes Canada so special. I think that probably was a really pivotal, you know, like part of your trip where like then you're incorporating the history and the culture and like the people of the country in your adventure as well. It's neat.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we heard a lot of inspiring things about what people think about Canada. And we again had some surprises. Like we interviewed Chris Hadfield at Canada Day in Ottawa. It was just a fluke, but we saw him and we thought he'd be a great person to ask about what makes Canada special. So we even have some celebrities, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
Very cool. That's awesome. I'd love to know some more about travel hacking. So tell us a little bit about what travel hacking is and how we can get involved in that.
So I know like the definition usually is travel hacking is the art of democratizing free or low cost travel. That's kind of the overview, but it really is based around like miles, like travel points and things like that. And a big part of it is utilizing like credit card promotions for earning points in a certain awards program. So in Canada, it's usually Aeroplan. There are some other ones, but Aeroplan is definitely the biggest. And then it's just, one is like maximizing earning points. So with me, I try to put everything on the credit card now, anything I can I might as well get points for it. And then knowing how to use them for the best rewards. So for me, for example, you can, depending on where you're going, you can usually get a free stopover or something like that. So it's a way to get another trip included for free with the points. So it's a lot of that. And then another big part is like business class travel. Like I don't know if I would ever pay the amount that it is for going like business class to Asia from here, but with points, it's not always a heck of a lot more. And so it was our way.
It's way better.
Some of our coolest trips, like flying first class on Emirates and having like a shower on the plane, or just having a bed when you're flying and things like that. It's things we wouldn't have experienced without travel
points. Yeah.
Wow, that's super cool. And so now the travel points, like, are they different? Like if you're Canadian or if you're American or you're Mexican or like wherever you live, is the points are different and the
Kind
difference?
of, yeah. Like the points are the same. Like if from the US, you can earn airplane
Way
points
more.
probably, for example, but it just depends on like for us up here, it would be hard to earn like United miles because we don't have any credit cards that are linked to with United. So you could still technically earn the points by flying with the aircraft, but with a lot of it depends on credit cards. And I find Canada and the US is definitely the easiest place for travel hacking. There's not many other countries have such a culture of credit cards as well. It seems it's very big here, especially in the US, but it's becoming pretty big in Canada too. And I just find that the easiest way to earn points because you can put all your expenditures on there and earn the points. And then usually when you apply for a credit card, it comes with some bonus points as well. So that's a good way to get started.
Yeah, I've never really gotten into like following my points. I know I have a points card. I know I should be using my credit card to get more points, but I have never really gotten into doing that, and I really should. I used to travel for a cruise line. I used to travel from ship to ship, and they paid for my flights, but I could collect the points. And I wish I had collected more of the points then, because that would have been a lot of points.
Yeah, it's crazy how I have one credit card with RBC that I've had since I was 18, and I find like the points are terrible. It's one of the free credit cards, so probably for every 30,000 you were to spend on the card, it's like a gift card of $50. Mm-hmm. Whereas if I spend that same amount with my travel points, MasterCard or American Express, it's like a free flight to Mexico. So it's the same. You're spending the same. Sometimes the cards have an annual fee of $100, but if you're using them right, you really can rack up the points very quick.
That's great. And some of them I know, like if you sign up for the card, you actually get like a buddy pass or like a friend pass like right away for flying. Is that right?
Yeah. There's some cards like with Alaska Airlines has a MasterCard in Canada anyways, where you get, I think you pay $75 for the card, and right away you get 25,000 points. So it's already enough to go anywhere in Canada and the US. And then you also get the buddy pass for $99 as well.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. So for our Canadian listeners and our Canadian audience, make sure you guys check out Matt's website, Canadian Travel Flyers. Is that right, Matt?
Free Flyers.
Canadian Free Flyers, sorry, CanadianFreeFlyers.com. And you've got more information about how to travel hack and how to get more points. And tell us a little bit more about the website.
Yeah, so the main reason I started it for Canadians is because there's already a lot of websites out there for Americans. That's how I learned. I learned it from American travel hackers, and at that time, so but a lot of the deals they would send me were only for Americans. So that's kind of what inspired me to start my own, because a lot of people at that time didn't think there was that many deals here, but there actually is quite a bit. So that's what it started off with, an ebook, and then it became a membership site. And now I have everything's by video now. So when you sign up, you see all the videos and you learn about travel hacking. And then whenever I find a deal, like a new credit card and stuff, I email it out to everyone.
Awesome. That's great. So for our RV families out there that you're not in your RV yet and you're still traveling by airplane everywhere, this is great for vacations and great for, just getting going, backpacking and traveling across the world. It's awesome. And for our RVers, this is great for when you want to leave your RV somewhere and you want to go to somewhere you cannot drive to with your RV. So really great. So I love that. And so you also have another podcast, that Live Limitless. And can you tell us a little bit about your philosophy around like living limitlessly and why you started that?
Yeah, so a big reason was I just noticed that ever since I first started traveling, my first trip was Australia and New Zealand, and at that time I hadn't been into traveling. I barely had left Canada or even my province, and I wasn't really too adventurous. And on that trip is when I started like exploring that kind of stuff and like pushing my boundaries and bungee jumping and skydiving. And by doing all these little things, I found that every time you did something that scared you, you got more confident. And I found after that trip, I was way more like interested in saying yes to anything that came my way. I wasn't really, it doesn't mean I wasn't afraid to do something, but I wasn't going to let that fear stop me. And that's what kind of inspired the blog. And not just with travel, but even with starting a blog or starting a business or doing cool things. Like we've done a lot of other interesting things that have been on our bucket list. And it's just more the philosophy of trying to live without limits and not letting fear hold you back.
I love that. And a lot of our audience maybe is sitting at home right now looking at these kind of lifestyles as like something that they want to do, but they have some fear holding them back. Can you tell us some advice for our friends and families at home right now that are, wanting to get out on the road and wanting to see and explore more, but are just not there yet?
Yeah, for sure. Do you want to do this? Because
Well,
you're good at this too. Like one of the cool things too with the blog is like I've had people that have told me that I've inspired them to do certain things, and Karla had a big, for her too, like she wasn't really about traveling before, and so she's also pushed her boundaries in so many ways. And
yeah, at least I'm always like willing to try stuff, because sometimes we're afraid the most is to the unknown, that you don't know what's going to happen. And I think that really following your heart or something that you always wanted to do, it's always a good sign. And you will see that when you do something from love or something that you really want, things start happening because you don't see it as work or as a challenge, right? And even it can be a challenge at the beginning. The more you do it, the more confident you get. Because even me, like English, having it as a second language and try to be a host for a travel series, of course it's challenging and sometimes can be frustrating, but the more you do it, the more confident you get, and really you keep growing. And I guess that's like a real secret in life, is to keep growing and learning and challenging yourself. That's a big reward already, like feeling good with yourself, because you don't want, one thing that we were thinking is that we don't want to get old and say, I wish I would have done this, because most people regret of things that they didn't do than things that they did and they didn't like. So even for me moving to Canada, like I was leaving everything behind, but I say, if I don't try it, I'm going to regret. So I'd rather try it and say, okay, it didn't work, but at least I did it.
Yeah, and sometimes you can always start smaller. I recommend, like for me, I didn't, skydiving and bungee jumping were my bigger things, but before that, even in Canada, I had started a little bit like doing some whitewater rafting and things like that. But you can maybe start smaller, just work your way up so that you have that confidence. And I always look at it like, there's so many other people doing it. So for me, it was always more just being safe. And I don't know, I just find once you start doing it, you get more confident and everything's more exciting. And yeah, what's the worst that can happen kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and props to you, Karla, for moving from Mexico to Canada and hosting What's So Special About Canada across the country, like a web series, like amazing, right? So congratulations to both of you guys for doing that huge project. That's so amazing, and thank you for being and so inspiring to the rest of our audience who are sitting at home thinking about this. And I just love hearing your guys' stories. And make sure for our audience who've tuned into the summit, make sure you check out their blogs and their websites and the MustDoCanada.com. Make sure you go there, reach out to them. If you're not from Canada, or even if you're from Canada and you want some travel tips of where to go in Canada, what to do, what to see, the best places and the best time of year to go, reach out to them. They are doing some travel consulting as well. So thank you guys. Any last words for people on the summit here?
I would just say if it's something that you've always dreamed of doing, you should try to find a way to make it happen.
That's right. Don't let the fear stop you.
Or lack of money, right?
Yeah. There's so many ways to work around, really.
Yeah, and even with like even just like before when we traveled to Asia, for example, we didn't have a blog or anything, so we didn't do anything in terms of sponsorship. But I think sometimes a lot of people think everything's more expensive than it is, and you'd be surprised how cheap you can make things, whether it's groceries instead of restaurants, or saving it up at home before you go, or having an RV maybe. Like there's all kinds of ways you can make it happen. So I guess it's just like thinking outside the box and coming up with a creative solution.
And also like set priorities, right? Because of course sometimes if you really want to travel somewhere or do something, you really need to think, okay, how much money do I need? So, okay, I have this much money a month, so how can I save this money, and how much I need to save each month to go next year? So it's really setting priorities. Do I really need this pair of shoes, or should I put it away for my trip to Asia or whatever? So that's something very important as well.
Awesome. Thank you guys for being with us today, and I look forward to following you on your next adventure, and good luck with the documentary and the book.
Thank you.
Thank you.